No one believed an elephant could remember a person after 15 years apart, until Nala proved otherwise, in a way that has moved millions of people around the world to tears. In the heart of the African savannah, a tiny 3-month-old elephant wandered alone, dehydrated and frightened. Her mother's body lay less than a kilometer away, another victim of illegal poachers. The baby elephant trumpeted desperately, searching for protection that wouldn't come. Her fate seemed sealed until a rescue team found her, already staggering from exhaustion. That's when Maria Santos, a 25-year-old Brazilian biologist volunteering at a conservation center in Kenya, received the mission that would change her life forever, caring for the little elephant named Nala. When I first saw her, our gazes connected in an inexplicable way, Maria recalls, her eyes welling up. It was as if she was begging for help, but at the same time showing a surprising inner strength. The first days were critical. Nala refused to eat, her tiny body constantly trembling. The veterinarians prepared Maria for the worst. "We spent 3 straight nights awake," she says. "I slept on the floor beside her, feeling her irregular breathing, fearing each sigh might be her last." On the 4th night, Maria had a desperate idea. She soaked a blanket in warm water and wrapped the little elephant in it, mimicking the warmth and texture of her mother's skin. While gently stroking Nala's trunk, she began to sing a Brazilian lullaby that her own mother used to sing to her. "It was a magical moment," Maria whispers. Her eyes opened, she stretched out her trunk and touched my face. That night, she took her first full bottle. This would be just the first of many victories against all odds. A journey that no one could predict would culminate, 15 years later, in one of the most extraordinary reunions ever documented between humans and wild animals. The sanctuary's cameras captured precious moments from Nala and Maria's first months together, images that now seem almost impossible. A small elephant following her caretaker like a shadow, responding to her name and developing a unique greeting ritual, a characteristic swaying of her trunk that would become her personal signature. "Elephants are extremely social and emotional animals," explains Maria. "The trauma of losing a mother so early is devastating, comparable to what human children feel. They need much more than food and shelter, they need connection." Nala's daily routine was meticulously documented. Each morning began with a mud bath, essential for protecting her sensitive skin from the scorching African sun. Maria carefully applied the mud, laughing when Nala insisted on helping, often spreading more mud on herself than on her body. During walks through the savannah, Nala never strayed more than a few meters away. At Maria's slightest call, she would come running on, her still awkward legs, her ears flapping comically. These walks had a purpose beyond exercise. They were vital lessons about which plants to eat and which to avoid. She had an insatiable curiosity, Maria recalls, smiling. Once, Nala found an abandoned beehive. The expression of pure joy when she tasted honey for the first time, eyes closed, trunk swinging in circles, is something I'll never forget. At night, before sleeping, the most special ritual took place. Maria would always caress the same spot between Nala's eyes, softly singing that Brazilian lullaby. The little elephant would close her eyes and emit a deep, almost imperceptible sound that vibrated throughout her body, a sound that experts would later identify as exclusive to communication between calves and their mothers. "It was our sacred moment," Maria confesses. "Other handlers tried to substitute for me on my rare days off, but Nala refused to sleep without our song. I think in those moments, we both forgot we were different species. We were just two connected souls finding comfort in each other." No one could predict that this simple nightly ritual would become the key to a moment that years later would leave the entire world in tears. The video of Maria and Nala's separation, captured by one of the handlers, is still one of the most watched in the sanctuary's history. The images show what animal behavior specialists consider extraordinary evidence of elephants' emotional depth. After 2 years of intensive care, the inevitable moment arrived. Nala, now 5 years old and healthier than many wild elephants of the same age, was ready for the next phase of her rehabilitation. she would be transferred to a larger sanctuary where she would live with other rescued elephants in an environment that replicated natural conditions. I tried to prepare myself for months, Maria confesses, her voice breaking with the memory. I knew it was best for her, but how do you explain to an elephant you love that you have to leave her? On the eve of the transfer, Maria spent the entire night with Nala. The sanctuary's night cameras recorded the two sitting under the African starry sky. The young biologist recorded a small video diary that night. I want her to be free, to live as she should live, but part of my heart will always be with her. Dawn brought the dreaded moment. When the specialized truck arrived, Nala seemed to sense something was different. She refused to enter the vehicle, circling it several times, trumpeting anxiously. That's when I made the hardest decision, Maria recalls. I knew I needed to be strong for her. I got into the truck first and called her. Her eyes, I'll never forget how she looked at me, as if asking, "Are you coming with me?" Nala finally entered the truck, following her caretaker. But when Maria had to leave, the scene that unfolded moved even the most experienced handlers. The young elephant extended her trunk through the bars, touching Maria's face already wet with tears. She made that high-pitched sound, the same one she made when she was scared as a baby, Maria says. I tried to smile, to tell her everything would be okay. But when the truck departed, Nala trumpeted so loudly it seemed to make the earth tremble. Maria fell to her knees, sobbing, as the vehicle disappeared into the distance. At that moment, she could never have imagined that this wouldn't be their final goodbye. In the weeks following Nala's departure, Maria faced what psychologists would later call interspecies grief, an increasingly recognized phenomenon among people who form deep bonds with animals. She lost weight, had difficulty sleeping, and confessed in her diary, "I feel as if part of me left in that truck." But life in its inexorable march moved forward. With the end of her volunteer period, Maria returned to Brazil to complete her studies in conservation biology. The walls of her small university apartment quickly became covered with photos of Nala, inspiring her in the most difficult moments. I transformed my longing into determination, explains Maria. Every time I faced a difficulty, I thought, if Nala survived what she went through, I can overcome any challenge. In the following years, her career took off in an extraordinary way. She specialized in animal behavior and conservation of large mammals. Her scientific articles on the emotional intelligence of elephants revolutionized how the scientific community viewed these animals. One of her lectures, titled "What I Learned from an Orphaned Elephant," became one of the most watched online presentations on animal behavior. It was difficult to talk about her without getting emotional, Maria admits. During lectures, I tried to maintain an academic posture, but when I showed photos of Nala, my voice always trembled a little. In 2012, Maria founded an NGO dedicated to protecting endangered animals in South America, applying lessons learned from Nala to rehabilitate orphaned animals. Her methodology, which emphasized emotional connection as a crucial part of recovery, produced unprecedented survival rates. Meanwhile, she received occasional updates about Nala. She learned that Nala had integrated well into the new group, becoming particularly close to an older elephant who assumed a maternal role. Over time, the updates became more infrequent. Sometimes I dreamed about her, Maria confesses. Vivid dreams where we walked together through the savannah. I would wake up with the sensation of having smelled her, that unique mixture of earth and grass that clung to her skin. In 2015, Maria married and 2 years later gave birth to her first daughter. The chosen name? Nalani, a Hawaiian name that coincidentally sounded like a tribute to the one who was her first daughter. The email arrived on an ordinary morning in 2020. The African sanctuary would celebrate its 30th anniversary and was inviting former staff and volunteers for a special visit. Due to the pandemic, the event was postponed several times, until finally being rescheduled for 2023. I didn't tell anyone, but deep in my heart there was a small hope, Maria admits, even knowing it would be almost impossible. Elephants live up to 70 years in the wild, so Nala would probably still be alive, but finding her in a reserve of thousands of acres. And even if I found her, Would she recognize a human she hadn't seen for 15 years? Science would say no. Most studies suggest that, although elephants have extraordinary memory for migration routes and water sources, recognition of specific humans after so many years would be unlikely, especially considering that Nala now lived a completely wild life among other elephants. Upon arriving at the sanctuary, Maria was warmly welcomed by former colleagues. During the tour of the modernized facilities, she casually mentioned her history with Nala. To her surprise, the program director smiled. "Nala? The great matriarch of the Eastern group? She's still with us and has become a legend here," he exclaimed. Maria felt her heart skip a beat. Not only was Nala alive, but she had become a leader, something rare for rehabilitated elephants who usually occupy lower positions in the hierarchy. The next day, a special excursion was organized. The group of visitors boarded all-terrain vehicles, equipped with cameras and monitoring equipment. After 3 hours of searching under the relentless African sun, the radio crackled. Nala's group had been spotted near a small lake. Emotion overwhelmed Maria as the vehicles slowly approached. From a distance through binoculars, she could see a magnificent group of about 15 elephants. Among them stood an imposing female, with elegant tusks and a small distinctive scar above her right eye, a mark from a keen scratch she had suffered as a calf. "That's her," whispered the guide. "That's Nala." What happened next was captured on video by various devices and subsequently went viral on platforms worldwide, accumulating over 50 million views in just 1 week. The vehicle stopped at a safe distance of 100 meters from the elephant group. The guides explained they couldn't get any closer to avoid disturbing the animals. Wild elephants can be unpredictable, especially when there are calves in the group, warned the expedition leader. Maria nodded, trying to contain the emotion consuming her. Through her camera lens, she observed every movement of Nala, now a majestic matriarch. 2 calves played nearby, probably her own offspring. "It was surreal," Maria recalls, "seeing that little elephant I used to carry in my arms now leading her own group. I felt a pride I can't describe. Suddenly, the unexpected happened. A light breeze blew toward the elephant group. Nala abruptly raised her head, becoming completely still. Her enormous ears extended, turning like radars toward the vehicle. The guides became tense and requested absolute silence," says Maria. "One of them whispered, 'She's caught our scent, everyone stay still.'" To everyone's concern, Nala began walking slowly toward the jeep. The rest of the elephant group seemed alarmed, backing up a few steps. One of the calves trumpeted anxiously. "Maybe we should back up," murmured the guide, his hand already on the ignition. It was at this critical moment that Maria, unable to contain her emotion and ignoring all safety protocols, stood up in the open vehicle. "It was instinctive," she explains. "Before anyone could stop me, I began to hum that same Brazilian lullaby I used to sing to Nala when she was a calf." Nala instantly stopped about 20 meters from the vehicle. Her body language visibly changed, the previous tension replaced by what behavior specialists would later describe as focused curiosity. She tilted her head slightly to the side, an almost human gesture of recognition. And then, to the disbelief of everyone present, the enormous elephant emitted a high-pitched, distinctive sound, exactly the same one she made as a calf when she recognized her caretaker. She followed this with that characteristic trunk sway, her personal signature that no one besides Maria knew about. "When I saw that movement, I knew without a shadow of doubt," says Maria, with tears in her eyes. 15 years later, in a completely different world, she remembered. Not just me, but our special ritual. What followed the initial recognition transcended all expectations and transformed into what experts consider one of the most extraordinary behaviors ever documented in rehabilitated elephants. With special permission from the Sanctuary Administration, Maria was able to approach Nala's group in the following days, always with extreme caution and respect. Cameras captured moments that challenged conventional scientific understanding of animal memory and cognition. In a particularly moving scene, Nala gently led her 2 calves to introduce them to Maria. Behavior that, according to experts, demonstrates not just recognition, but a level of social awareness rarely attributed to non-human animals. "There was a moment when she delicately touched my face with her trunk," reports Maria, "exactly as she used to do when she was small. It was as if she wanted to say, 'Look at me now, I made it. I'm okay.'" Dr. Jonathan Payne, a renowned primatologist who analyzed the footage, observes, "What we see here goes beyond simple memory. It suggests a continuity of identity through time. Nala not only remembered Maria, but seems to have maintained a sense of emotional connection with her, even after years living as a wild elephant among other elephants." The story of Nala and Maria quickly transcended the boundaries of scientific interest. The reunion video, edited with the lullaby as a soundtrack, became a viral phenomenon. Comments like, "I'm crying at work and I don't care," and "If you still doubt animals have souls, watch this," flooded social media. The impact was tangible. The NGO founded by Maria saw its donations increase by 300% in just 1 month. More significantly, the story catalyzed new conservation initiatives and awareness about the emotional intelligence of elephants, an endangered species constantly losing habitat. "What deeply moves me is that our story is helping to save other elephants," reflects Maria. "People have come to see these animals not just as species, to be preserved, but as sentient individuals capable of memory, gratitude, and deep affection." Today, Maria divides her time between conservation projects in Brazil and regular visits to the African sanctuary. She has established an educational fund that has already taken more than 1,000 children to meet rescued elephants, planting seeds of compassion that will certainly flourish in the future. Every time I see someone watching the video of our reunion and wiping away tears, I think, that person will never see an elephant the same way again, Maria says with conviction. And that perhaps is the greatest gift Nala and I can offer to the world. This extraordinary story reminds us that sometimes the deepest bonds transcend species, time, and distance. And it makes us question, what more can we learn from these magnificent beings if only we give ourselves the chance to truly know them? If this story touched your heart, share it, because every person who understands the value of an animal life is one more voice in the fight for their preservation.